In April, I went to 2 events in Brazil. One was VTEX Day, one of the largest commerce events worldwide. The other was WebSummit, the largest technology event in Latam. While we posted on socials about some of those insights from those weeks, I received lots of curious messages asking me about retail in Brazil. So here comes another OFFBounds Market episodes where I will talk about the country I was born and raised, Brazil. Here's Paula Macadi, and this is episode 20 of my show. Welcome to OFFBounds. Yes, not many people know that, but I am Brazilian. In case you wondered where my accent is from, now you know. Brazil is the largest country in both South America and Latin America. Brazil also has the 7th largest population in the world with over 211 million people. If you work in retail and have been to one of the most important industry conferences in the world, NRF, you have probably noticed many Brazilians there. The event that happens in New York every year in January has Portuguese as the second most spoken language, and Brazilians account for nearly 20% of the show attendees. The country is huge and complex with big regional diversification and is very difficult to understand because of regulatory issues and a super complex fiscal system. But it's an innovative and super competitive market. While in some countries there's a consolidation of a few dominant players, in Brazil it never happened in retail. You'll find strong regional players, but almost none has a market share dominance nationwide. When I was in São Paulo last month for VTEX Day, I talked with Alberto Serrentino. He's my fellow top retail expert, international speaker, investor, and board member of several of the most relevant retailers in the country. He shared that Brazil in the past had some booming years with emerging middle class, consumption expansion, income growth, and it clearly benefited retail a lot. However, that didn't persist, and since then the retail industry never kept a sustainable high rate growth. Brazil has some very interesting particularities that I would like to share. First, the country has one of the most advanced financial systems. Its central bank was elected the best monetary authority in the world by the Central Bank magazine, and the country has been growing its fintechs to extraordinary numbers. If you haven't heard about Nubank yet, I'll leave the link about it in the show notes. That means that in terms of payments, Brazil has been leading trends. For example, you know the buy now pay later concept? Paying installments has been a thing in the country for generations, and you can purchase pretty much anything from 3 to 12 installments with no interest. The payment itself is issued by the credit card companies and not a tech company like Klarna or Afterpay. So you must be wondering, how banked is the population in Brazil? I did my research and even I was surprised. According to Locomotiva Institute, only 3% of adults in Brazil are unbanked. At VTEX Day, Gustavo Turquia, Visa's executive director, shared that Brazil is a case of tokenized payment transactions. The first one was made 8 years ago, and today around 50% of Visa transactions in Brazil are tokenized. If you are unsure about what it means, payment tokenization is a security technique that replaces sensitive payment information, such as credit card numbers, with a unique random set of characters called a token. This process helps to keep payment data safe during transactions because the actual card information is not being used or stored. As the largest online market in Latam, the volume of online transactions in Brazil has reached $275 billion in 2023, with an estimated compound annual growth rate for 2023 and 2026 of 18%. The forecasted volume for 2026 is $457 billion. Another interesting fact is that 74% of online consumers in Brazil use shopping apps. Very impressive number, isn't it? Like in any other market, COVID played a huge role in digitalization. The restriction imposed by the pandemic forced all kinds of businesses to start selling online through its own channels, marketplaces, social media, and even WhatsApp. I spoke with Marcelo Pimentel, the CEO of Grupo Pão de Açúcar, one of the most important grocers in the country. He said that in 2 years, their online business went from 8 to 12% of total sales, and 40% of that is click and collect, which is a footfall driver to the stores. He also mentioned that online sales are part of the store manager's results, as there isn't online or offline anymore. It's all about serving the customers as they want to, wherever they want to. Pimentel is very excited for the future of retail because as the interest rates go down and unemployment rates are also slightly decreasing, the industry starts to invest again, and there's a wonderful signal to watch in Brazil. He also shared that Grupo Pão de Açúcar is a premium brand supermarket and they see these signals earlier than the average. As they serve affluent customers with more disposable income, they are already noticing bigger baskets with product categories beyond the basics, and he's very excited about it. Now that we got into grocery, I'd like to share that for me is one of the most interesting facts about the country, the atacarejo. Atacarejo is the union of two words, atacado, which is wholesale, and varejo, that is retail. So it's a combination of both words, atacado plus varejo, atacarejo. In English, we could describe that format as cash and carry, but I confess I find the word atacarejo a lot more satisfying to say. This format is a huge success in Brazil and really transformed the food industry, especially for the number of SKUs, which is around 9,000. If you compare to Costco, for example, they offer 3,500. And, of course, the same principle, low prices. Carrefour's revenue in the country comes mostly from its atacarejo stores. The group owns Atacadão and Sam's Club in Brazil. Grupo Pão de Açúcar also bet in the model and owns Açaí, another huge player. One of the advantages of this concept in Brazil is that it reduces logistics costs, as small shops and consumers buy it directly from their location and there's no need to send trucks to fulfill small store formats. It's estimated that there are 2,500 atacarejo stores in Brazil, more than 300 players operate on this model, and 70% of households use this channel. Impressive, isn't it? But do you want to know what is really impressive? Let's talk about Brazil's consumers. Brazilians are very connected. It's the second country that spends more time using the internet daily, only behind South Africa. Brazil is also the country that most listens to podcasts. For reference, the worldwide average is 20.6%, the US is 28.9%, but Brazil, almost 40%. Brazilians are huge content consumers. While I was at VTEX Day, I swear every booth had a podcast studio. But really, I go to many retail events around the world and I've never seen this. It's another level of professionalism in terms of equipment and commitment to content. So you want to thrive in Brazil as a brand? Focus on content. 64.5% of Brazilians seek out brands on social media to learn about them and see their content. This is the highest number in the world. Brazilian consumers are connected, informed, and take a lot into consideration of what influencers say. In my industry circle with my retail friends and etc., we tend to talk a lot about China's influencers' strength. But guess which country is the most influenced in the world? Yup, Brazil! According to a study using data from Statista and Hootsuite, Brazilians consider more influencers when purchasing than China, US, or India. Thinking of launching your brand in Brazil? The main advice is to use content strategically, not limiting to promotional and commercial content, but also bringing formative content that makes a difference in the consumer's life, bringing the customer and the brand closer together. Affiliates and influencers are decisive tools in engaging with the brand, and the relationship of trust between the influencer and their followers is a decisive factor when planning an action. At VTEX Day, Daniela Okuma, the General Manager Global Business Solutions Brazil at TikTok, shared that 85% of people search for a product after seeing it on TikTok. She also highlighted the importance of content with purpose, with partners that make sense for the brand, influencer, and target audience. That said, the power of content and influencers take us to another interesting fact. Brazil is the second country that uses live commerce, only behind China. During VTEX Day, there were a few runway shows that were live streamed and customers could buy everything they saw. There were also some studios around the event and brands were showcasing their products to the audience. And that for me was very interesting because it was the only event I've been to where retailers are actually participating in the event as much as the technologies. Usually, technologies are displaying their latest innovation, latest products on the floor of the conference and retailers doing the research. But there, retailers were also displaying their efforts to be more digital. On social commerce, WhatsApp plays a huge role. On the platform, Brazilians talk with their family, their friends, their lawyer, their doctor, their favorite pizza place, and of course with their favorite brands. The head of WhatsApp for strategic markets, Guilherme Horn, said at the event that the conversion rate of an abandoned cart action via WhatsApp is 5 to 30 times higher than any other channel, although there are some challenges in the adoption of this technology for sales. For example, the conversation with the customer has to be continuous, meaning it cannot be interrupted if the customer takes a while to respond. And this tool is being used in several businesses in the country. In our first OFFBounds episode, Olivier Gibert, Carrefour's global CTO, explained why the wholesale chain Atacadão has been using conversational commerce to engage with their B2B customers.
We started having conversational commerce. Atacadão started this activity 3 months ago.
So Atacadão is a wholesaler.
So Atacadão is a very big brand in Brazil, operating for mainly B2B, but also B2C. They started e-commerce 2.5 years ago, and now they are extending with a website. And now they are extending their selling channel with WhatsApp. So because their customers are professional enterprise, such as restaurants, etc. So it's way easier for them to have WhatsApp and say, hey, I want to order this and that. And so it started 3 months ago, and it's already a success. I think it's deployed in around, 50 customers, and we plan to make it generally available next year.
Concierge commerce is a global trend, and there will be an episode fully dedicated to it soon enough on OFFBounds. So again, don't forget to subscribe. And just like any other country, AI and retail media were a big part of the show. Marcelo Pimentel said that Grupo Pão de Açúcar has the largest loyalty program in Brazil with 20 million members, and retail media is an extension of this program. They did a first test in 2023 and saw substantial increment in revenue. And in 2024, this revenue has already tripled. He ensures that the potential for retail media isn't only online, and they now have implemented 3,000 screens at their stores and are working with the industry to provide relevant content to customers. When I talked with Rodrigo Haddad, the director of e-commerce at Ambev, he shared that the magical thing around retail media is having the chance to view full funnel media. And that differently from traditional media, brands can now have from top funnel to bottom funnel view, so they can understand really how to connect marketing campaigns to sales. He also mentions that the conversion rates are much higher than in social media, so the ROI is always 3 to 6 times better than the average campaigns they run in traditional media. Brazil has a huge growth potential, and 2024 is already showing an improvement in consumer trust after the economic struggle we all lived these last years. Brazilian retailers are now focusing on operations and how AI can support their processes optimizations. Everyone seems optimistic, and company results are showing impressive profit growth. So for NRF 2025, make sure you have a Portuguese speaker at your booth. If you aren't aware of Brazilian brands around you, make sure to check Havaianas, the best flip-flops on the planet, Farm, the sustainable fashion brand with beautiful and characteristic prints, and Melissa, incredible store experience and so sensorial. The smell of the brand is just... And if you got curious and want to attend VTEX Day next year, I'm really considering taking an OFFBounds delegation with me in 2025. But tell me, did you know all that about Brazil? What else would you like to know? Each of these topics deserve a deep dive, but for this episode, it had to be only an overview. And if you want to learn more about the country, make sure to follow on LinkedIn the experts that are listed in the show notes. It's valuable to see the translation. See you next week.